Beto Paredes here again in our media center for Marketplace Masters. Today I've got one of the keynote speakers on the phone with me, and not only is he someone that's going to bring high value and a lot of great information at our show coming up here in September, Dallas, Texas, 6th, 7th, and 8th, Hyatt Regency, but he's also someone that really focuses on helping develop track for dealerships when it comes to some very important perspective. And that's, how do you manage your phones? How do you communicate properly? This guy's one of the best in the industry. I've had a little bit of preeminent conversation with him getting ready for this conversation. Very excited to have him here. I have in the house with me today Jerry Thibeau. He is the CEO of Phone Ninjas, as well as a few other companies that are focused on training dealerships. And I'm very glad to have him here. Jerry, how are you today?
Doing very good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Very excited that you're here and you're coming to our show. Going to have a lot of great information, but let's get into what it is that you're doing and kind of where things have come from for you. If you don't mind, for our listeners, talk a little bit about your background. You were telling me that you started out in the car business actually selling cars, so tell me a little bit about where this all came from.
Yeah, I was actually in my early 20s living up in Maine and having a hard time finding a decent job, and one day my dad said to me, hey, why don't you go sell cars? I did that when I was younger and I had fun. I made good money doing it, and I'm like, yeah, I could probably do that. I kind of always viewed myself as a salesperson. And so I walk into a Subaru dealership, and within 15 minutes the GM hired me, and I'm like, oh, that was easy. Show up for work my first day, they kind of point some things out to me and they're like, go get them, Tiger. And I think I sold 3 or 4 cars that first month, and I promptly got fired at the end of the month. I remember the thing that got me fired was I let this woman walk without touching the desk and giving them an update. And, I got fired because I wasn't succeeding, but I didn't succeed because nobody taught me how to do the job. And luckily, the next dealership I got into gave me a lot of great training, and I was able to become a very successful salesperson. And I've never looked back since.
Awesome. So 2009, you started your own company, Phone Ninjas. Between the time that you were working in that dealership, you'd gotten a lot of experience. Talk to me about what it is that you guys offer. What does Phone Ninjas, and of course you've got other companies that you can also go ahead and bring in perspective, but what do you offer to dealerships?
Well, so before I started Phone Ninjas, I was actually doing my own consulting thing as a phone trainer, and I had a good little life. From September to May, I would work my butt off out there on the road training dealers. I'd go out to the dealership and I'd do in-class training, teach them how to be better at phone and internet leads. And then in the summers, I would take the summers off and play golf and enjoyed my life. And then, one day a dealer came to me. He's like, Jerry, I spent all this money. I had you come in here, train my people, and a month later, they're just as bad as they were before I had you come in here. He's like, well, here, he goes, go listen to my recorded phone calls. I'm like, okay. And I started listening to those recordings, and I'm like, whoa, I have an opportunity here to coach people, because I had just got done taking a golf lesson that day. And, as a golfer, I knew that when I would go work with a pro and have somebody teach me the right way, I would then go practice the right way and I would get better. And I'm like, why don't I apply this concept to phone training? So I decided to take those audio files, and as we listen to them, we're scoring them, but we're also inserting coaching within the audio file, and we're teaching the people how to be more effective on the phone with real calls. And so I've learned that the on-site training, while that's a great way to kick off the training, it's not what gets the job done. It's more about the ongoing coaching process and the accountability, because when salespeople know that we're listening to their calls or scoring and evaluating them, they tend to take them more serious and they start to perform at a higher level.
Wow, so you got an opportunity because you saw it listening to these calls, and I would say in an environment that puts the salesperson in such a more natural position, because they're literally in the mix trying to work the business instead of sitting in front of you, let's say in person, and maybe putting on a different personality. You really got to see that natural perspective. I can see how that has really helped. So over time, you've done this for a number of companies. Tell me, as far as rates of improvement are concerned, How important do you think it is for a dealership to really have good training for the way their staff is using their phones? Is it making a big difference in their numbers?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The average dealer out there, let's say they get 300 phone ups per month. Well, when we take on a client, they're usually doing about 20% or less appointment rates on 100 phone ups. And so over 300 phone ups, that's 60 appointments that they're maybe making. Let's say 50 of those appointments show up, and generally you're going to sell half of the people that come to your dealership on an appointment. So, if they've got 50 people showing up, they're selling 25 cars on those 300 phone ups. Well, when I can get a dealer improve to the point where they're scoring 4.5 to 5 on all their calls, which I have dealers doing, that appointment ratio shoots up to 80%. And I can show you dealer after dealer that's achieving an 80% appointment ratio. So that, what is it, it's 240 appointments that you're going to make for your dealership. Now, they're not all going to show up. So let's say 200 of them show up. Well, you're going to sell half of those. That's 100 cars. So that's potentially 75 more sales a month just by getting good on the phones. Now, not every dealership's going to get 300 phone ups, but even if your dealership's getting 100 phone ups, you take your percentage from 20% to 80%, you don't have to spend any more money in advertising to make the ad dollars you're already spending more effective. And, I always tell dealers, a lot of them are throwing more money out there to bring more opportunities to their business. Well, if they just did a better job managing the opportunities they already have at hand, they're going to increase their sales. And before I put more money into advertising, I would want to make sure my staff is properly trained and they know how to get the job done so that I'm maximizing that advertising dollar.
That makes a lot of sense. Dealers are sitting around wondering what it is that they need to do to sell more cars. And a lot of times they think they need to write a bigger check. They really do. They think they need to get more advertising out there. They're not on enough websites, or they've got to get a hold of an SEO company or whatever it might be, when really their organics need to be corrected. And you've seen the success rate change that drastically. Dealers that are listening right now, the ratios he's talking about, 20% to 80%. How many phone calls is your dealership getting? Okay, how different would it be if you were at 80% as compared to where you are now, and what would that mean for your marketing dollars? So it would obviously be very advantageous to get a hold of Jerry, talk to him about what it is that you're doing, and see if there might be something that he can do for your company. Jerry, tell me, where do you work mostly? Do you travel nationwide? Do you offer services nationwide? Talk about the majority of your dealers. Where have they been, and how do you get around?
So I have a staff of 50 people that work for me, and I used to be on the road a lot more. I now have a guy that goes out and does in-dealership training for me. He's actually somebody that sold cars with me back in the 80s. Great guy. He's very good at what he does. I spend my days mostly on the phone talking to dealers, helping them move in the right direction with one of my 3 companies, managing my employees. I really love software, and there's so many great things that you can do with software to make our industry more automated. And like right now, I've got this great product called Ringless Voicemail that we're implementing into dealerships. And my whole goal is to build great software and offer it at a reasonable price. I just think that so many dealers out there are being price gouged when it comes to software, and you get these companies that are just getting filthy rich, and dealers are overpaying on some of this stuff. It just really irritates me that the things that dealers get charged. So my whole goal is to build great products at an affordable price.
Well, I love that, and there's not enough of that in the industry. A lot of times you see that going the other direction. So talking about the 3 companies, we've got Phone Ninjas, we've got Recon Ninjas, and I do believe the other one is called Talk Options. Can you tell me a little bit of the difference between the 3?
Yeah, so Talk Options actually came about. One of my Phone Ninja clients came to me, he said, Jerry, he goes, I've been trying out this software. I love the concept. I hate the software, and I certainly don't like the CEO of that company. I just don't get along with the guy. He goes, will you build this for me? And at first I turned him down. I said, no, I don't want to be dabbling at a bunch of different things. And so he's like, came to me a second time. He's like, look, you got good programmers. Why don't you just build this? He goes, I'll help you do it. And so I'm like, okay, what the heck? So I started Recon Ninjas, and it's a tool that helps dealers manage their inventory. So when you take in a used car, obviously there's a lot of steps that have to happen before that car becomes line ready. And our software will hold the people accountable, and it's all about trying to get that car through the process faster and more efficiently. And that's what Recon Ninjas does. So that's a quick growing product for us. And then talk options came about. I just got tired of going to dealers' websites and seeing all these different things pop up, chats and text, and like they had 3 different companies that they had deployed on their website. So my goal was to design this easy to use widget that allowed a customer to choose how they wanted to communicate with your dealership. And it could be through phone call, it could be text, chat, email, and then we also have a little review widget as well. And it's become a really cool tool because not only can the customer choose how they want to interact with you, but you can interact with the customer in all those different ways as well. And we've built ringless voicemail into it. You know, here's a really interesting concept. Think about this. You know, dealers are building BDCs or they hire people to make phone calls. Maybe they're calling their customers at 3, 4, and 5 years. Maybe a sole customer, maybe they're calling their lease customers, or maybe they're calling their service customers on a daily basis. Well, when they make those calls, half the time they're getting the customer's voicemail anyways. So why not just do a ringless voicemail? Deliver your message. It rings the customer's phone once and then it goes directly to voicemail, and prompt that customer to call you back. So that's a great tool that we're really excited about. And then one of the biggest problems I see in dealerships is the service department. We hear so many phone calls coming into the dealerships around noontime and later in the day where people are looking for status updates on their cars, and those calls go to the operator then transfers it to the service writer, it goes to their voicemail, and then they're playing phone tag. And the customers get frustrated because they're not communicating with their service writers. So Talk Options also has a service writer app. Service writer loads an app on their phone, and they have a list of all their daily customers. They can call them, text them, they could send them a ringless voicemail, they could send them a video, they could send them a picture, and we're also doing some stuff with reviews. We have an automated process where a review invite will go out to every customer, asking them to rate us on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. And if they choose 5 stars, we then direct them to a third-party review site to give us a positive review. And if anything less than the dealer selects the level, if it's 4 or 3, they're not sent to a third-party review site. They're actually asked for feedback, and that feedback is then provided to a department manager so they can address that customer's concerns. And the dealers that are doing that, it's amazing. They have thousands of reviews out there, and we know that the more reviews you get, the more likely somebody is to want to interact with your business. So I'm excited about all 3 of my companies and the direction that we're headed and what we're doing for dealers.
Wow, that's an amazing mix. You know, there's the whole perspective of really helping a dealership understand how to speak on the phone better, how to train their salesmen to do better from those percentages, you know, going from 20 to 80%. But you also really have thought this through from the total service side. You've gotten into the technology side. In fact, here, everyone, I'm on their site, at least one of their sites, which is phoneninjas.com, and they'd won the 2015 Driving Sales Satisfaction Award for the highest rated internet trainers. This was from Driving Sales. So obviously, you guys are a very well-rounded company and have a lot to offer a dealership, not only in theory around how to manage sales and manage phone calls, but tools that they can use for customer satisfaction and to identify that online too. So hats off to you on that. That's an amazing thing.
And this is going to dovetail nicely into my presentation, which is going to be 10 secrets on how you can increase sales. And let me tell you, these 10 things I'm going to give, I guarantee you most dealers aren't doing any of this, and it's really going to help them increase sales.
We're excited for that presentation. That is at our show, everyone, in Dallas, Texas, Hyatt Regency, September 6th, 7th, and 8th. Jerry's going to be there. I'm going to be there. You can come and speak with Jerry at his booth on our expo floor as well as his staff. But I don't say that that's the most important thing right now. What's important is if you find this valuable, if you think there's something that can be done for your dealership, get in touch with these guys right away. And Jerry, what is the best way to do that? If I'm in dealership and I'm interested in what you have to say, I think it really may help my dealership. How do I get in touch with you guys? What's the best path?
The best way, send me an email. I may choose to pick up the phone and call you right then and there, or I may have one of my salespeople call you depending on how crazy busy I am that day. But my email is Jerry, Jerry, at phoneninjas.com. And they can, of course, go to any of my websites, Phone Ninjas, Recon Ninjas, or Talk Options, and there's a little widget on the right side where they can easily submit their information and get more information from me or my sales team.
Okay, wonderful. So that's how we do it, everyone. If you want to get a hold of Jerry, give him an email, get onto one of his websites, again, phoneninjas.com, reconninjas.com, and find out if there's something they can do for you today. I highly suggest you do it. It's been very enlightening speaking with you, Jerry. I don't see a lot of sales trainers that have really taken that identity of technology and have put together such a package as you have. So very, very excited to have you come to our show, because a lot of our show is kind of based around the idea that you really have to have a solid 360-degree track on what's happening on your show floor as much as what's happening online for your company. So Jerry's going to be giving us really good information that I think you're not going to want to miss. So Jerry, thank you for spending some time with us here, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
You bet.